Did anything come up in any of your conversations that would be of interest to the whole group? Just any thoughts or observations or feelings that you want to share with the group?
We both have an, sorry, is it my turn?
Yes, it is. Your turn.
We both have issues with responsibility, and maybe it's, we feel very responsible for certain situations in which we are responsible, but maybe not the only ones that are responsible. And so we were discussing the fact, you know, either you feel responsible, you are responsible, maybe there's two different things, but they can also be combined. How will you be able to push away those feelings once you've taken a decision, for example, and later on you start doubting whether it's the right decision? She's a judge, I'm a prosecutor, so we decide over the lives of humans sometimes. How can you use your technique and techniques, maybe plural, in pushing away, or maybe you shouldn't push away the sense of responsibility, but putting it in the right context?
It's a wonderful question, extremely important. I would think in the lives of a judge or a prosecutor that you would frequently have opportunities when the responsibility is yours, and then at some time in the future you look back on the decisions you made, say, you know, what was that all about? And did you have any feeling that when those situations arise, if you had the habit of meditation and mindfulness, that you would have a tool that you could use to resolve those feelings as they arose, and then just move ahead?
Yeah, I think maybe it wouldn't have kept me awake that long at night if I had techniques to just let that feeling be. Yeah.
Well, I've had that experience. I think probably all of us have, of waking up in the middle of the night and thinking about a decision you made the previous day or the previous year, and having the capacity to say, "Oh yes, I've done that before. Many people do that. Everybody who has responsibility. That must happen for everybody." Take a few breaths and just see if you can let it go. It may not disappear, but it may have a. I mean, this is such a common experience in the lives that you both lead. It seems to me one where it would be very helpful to have this kind of skill. Thank you for sharing that.
Do you think it's more, it's important to just let it go, or engage with it and kind of come to terms with it?
Did you all hear that question? It's another very important question. Is it more important to just let it go, or to hold on to it and come to terms with it? Right? Again, this is something that we each have to resolve in our lives. One of the nice things about the meditation practice is it lets you get away from that idea that you're really stuck with it, that you're in a stuck place. Because meditation, the practice of meditation is watching ideas arise and letting them go and not letting them stick. So once you've done that a lot, then it becomes easier. Or it becomes easier in letting things just not stick so much. You know, just, you know, this is a skill I have. So I think I would suggest this, that pushing it away is hard. That's going to be unproductive. But to let it go is a little different. You see, it's not this kind of push. It's letting it go. You know, letting it go. And that's a big difference. And and you get in the habit of letting things go without that effort is very helpful. So that the kind of polar opposites of either being stuck with it or pushing it away, you know, you open up a new space in which you can operate and deal with things more mindfully. Very important issue.
Could it also be about let it be?
Letting it be.
Yes.
Yes, very much about letting it be. this is a decision that I made yesterday, or it's something that I'm gonna have to decide tomorrow. And I'm just gonna have to be with it, and be with these feelings that it arouses in me. I think, is that a Beatles song? Let It Be?
I'm not sure.
Speaking words of wisdom. Let it be.
Yeah. Much of this is about letting it be, and not, you know, we lawyers are trained to rush in and make judgments, and make them fast and definitive. And some situations call for that skill, but there are other situations when just being present and observing what's going on and trying to take it in at the deepest level you can, and then seeing what emerges. That's a very valuable set of skills, too. Letting it be. Yeah.
Could you please elaborate on that? Because it brings up a problem which I've been seeing in my profession now for a couple of years. Because at least in the Dutch legal system, I believe both in civil law as well as in criminal law, if your adversary makes a number of points, and if you do not contradict them explicitly, the judge is likely to assume that they are established fact. Whilst for reasons of politeness, or for reasons of trying to de-escalate, you might not want to contradict each and every detail which your opponent or adversary has made. But apparently the legal system is such that you're almost compelled to escalate if you want to defend yourself. And that brings me occasionally into a dilemma on how to behave, as if wisdom, as you would call it, or the Beatles would call it, is not quite the same thing as a proper legal procedure. Could you elaborate on what you just said?
Well, yes, everyone could hear this comment. Question, comment. Okay. I think we are trained, our legal training invites us to see every situation as being this, what you're describing as a kind of a polar situation where if your adversary says A, B, and C, you have to say not A, not B, not C. And I want to suggest that's part of, in some situations a lawyer has to do that. And there are many situations when the lawyer serves his client better by not doing that. Say, for example, again, I don't know what your procedures are, but there's a situation of negotiation. Child custody in a family, in a divorce situation. And you're not talking about a courtroom appearance, but you're talking about sitting across a negotiating table. Your adversary makes 10 different points about what a scoundrel your client is and how virtuous his client is, right? And you know, one approach is to just take him, as you say, you go down points A to C or Z and refute every one. I think a skilled family lawyer would think hard about other approaches which are not, and of course if the lawyer does that, what he's doing is raising the temperature in the room and making it less likely that the two spouses are going to be able to reach a resolution, and that of course the people who suffer most when they can't reach a resolution and just come to hate each other more through this process is their children, who they have to jointly raise, whatever happens. So the lawyer who is approaching the question from a mindful perspective says, look, I have a whole range of possibilities here. And only one of them is to do what is often the first instinct for lawyers, which is to polarize a situation which is already polarized, just make the polarization entrenched and intractable. So I would encourage you to think about choice points you are in actually, when you can make a variety of decisions. Again, I don't know your criminal procedure, but the situation where a defense attorney gets together with a prosecutor, and they're talking about, well, what's the sanction going to be? Is there going to be prison time? How long is it going to be? What factors ought to be taken into account in determining that? To do that in a conversational way, and in a way which, without self-righteousness, makes the point you want to make, but without any added overload of self-righteousness. That's again, a range of choices. So I think that to respond to your point, the mindful approach expands the range of choices that the lawyer has to make, and permits the lawyer to step back from a rigidly adversarial response in every situation.
Do you think you need two people then with a mindful attitude, or is one of them enough?
It's a very good question, and I'll come back to this in a larger context. But the answer is this: that some of my teachers have, in my earliest meditation teaching, they said one mindful person in a difficult situation. It might be, the example he used was a group of Vietnamese boat people who are leaving Vietnam on a leaking and sinking boat. And his argument was that one mindful person in that boat, there may be 30 people in the boat, one mindful person is going to change the situation for everyone. And I gave an exercise to one of my classes. My course was called Effective and Sustainable Law Practice, the Meditative Perspective. And they had a responsibility to do daily meditation practice and also to do exercises outside the class. One of the exercises was to to pick one class for a week and go into that classroom and pause before walking into the classroom, get centered, and bring forward their best mindful demeanor, to go into the class and hold on to their mindfulness through that class. Whereas they might have been tempted to ridicule the professor, or when one of their fellow students was speaking, to discount what that person was saying, or whatever, but they would watch their stereotypical, ingrained response from a mindful place and let it go. And then to see if it had any impact on the class. So that was their assignment. Bring mindfulness into one class, which might be 3 times during the week, see if their behavior had any impact. One student's response was based on a class of a seminar which had 15 people in it. And his view was that his mindfulness changed the quality of the classroom experience. That through some chemistry, which he wasn't prepared to analyze, he said it was a different class. The professor spoke to the students differently. The students paid attention to each other's comments differently. And it created a mindful classroom. One other student, after hearing this story, said, well, he tried it in a class with 100 students, a big lecture class. He said that the spirit of mindlessness was so entrenched in that classroom that it was utterly hopeless. Because, I don't know, do people take notes on laptop computers here? So, as any professor among you knows, once the students have opened their laptop, you don't have any idea what they're doing. They may be fully present in the classroom, but the chance is extremely remote. More likely that they're looking at if they can get a bargain on a new pair of running shoes.